And 3, 2, 1, start the podcast. I see. What? I.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, okay. 3, 2, 1.
I don't hear it.
Oh, this happens like once a month.
It's okay. 3, 2, 1.
And here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Make Me, the podcast where Julia and I force each other to do all the things that we couldn't be bothered to do ourselves. My name is Jordan Steadman.
And my name is Julia Ray Weeks.
Hi, Julia.
Hello, Jordan. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm feeling invigorated by an amazing bike ride I just went on.
Oh, well, that's awesome. I'm feeling invigorated because I became a Miley Cyrus fan today.
I saw that.
She's my new favorite cover artist.
She has a very beautiful voice.
She does. I never was into her. I mean, I appreciated her music when it was popular, but I never listened to her whole albums. And then I heard a cover of her doing Arctic Monkeys, Why'd You Only Call Me When You're High? And I was like, well, she's the best. And so I've spent all day listening to her unplugged sets.
Yeah. My opinion of Miley Cyrus is that I think aesthetically amazing. I think she's a lot of fun. I think that her voice is very, very great, but her own stuff is kind of unremarkable. You know what I mean? I fell in love with her when she did the cover, when she did the Jolene cover.
Yes.
Because Dolly is also her godmother.
Yes, which is unbelievable.
But I just other stuff I can jam to it, but I'm not this is pop music.
Yeah.
Or this is what I'm looking for.
Right. It's just very poppy. And also I feel like in college, she was in her phase of just being I'm talking about drugs and drinking and being
the
crazy.
Bangers album.
And I was like, that's okay for me. I don't need it.
Yeah. That was a big album in my friend group, and I like it for the nostalgic purposes, but if I'm trying to listen to good pop music, IMO, that's just not what I'm looking for.
Right. Agreed.
But enough talking about other people's content.
Yes.
I don't have anything to cover. Should we just jump into the Make Me's?
Yeah, so let's do it. It's a first episode of Make Me Watch It.
Make Me Watch It, a very special episode where we force each other to watch movies. I realize that everything I've made you watch, I've already seen. But yes. I'm at peace with that because I also want to be able to I don't know. I want to see what you think. You know what I mean?
Yes. And I know our original intention was do the thing that I don't want to do, but the thing that you don't want to do in this instance is not talk about the movie host.
Yes, I don't want to talk to somebody who hasn't seen the movie about that movie, right? Because as I'm sure you'll go into it, there's a lot to talk about.
Yes. Am I up first? We can get into it.
Yeah, you're up first.
All right. So this week, Jordan had me watch the movie Host, which is on Shudder, which is a streaming service only for horror movies that I've never heard of.
It's pretty new.
The branding of it is a direct Netflix ripoff. It's all red and black. All the movies are in rows, and there's quote unquote genres. So it's make me scream, slashers, a bunch of other weird stuff.
Yeah, suspense, horror comedy and all that kind of stuff.
And then they have a bunch of their own originals, which I was even more surprised about. I thought it was going to be I thought the originals were going to be kind of low budget indie stuff, but the one that they're most promoting right now is a Nick Cage movie.
I saw that. I was shocked when I first got Shudder because I only got the 7-day free trial. And fun fact for everybody, if you get the 7-day free trial and on your last day you try to leave, they offer you another whole month for free.
Oh, that's
before
awesome.
You don't sign up. So
that's great.
Pro tip.
I am one of those types of people that I think I like horror movies, but I rarely seek them out unless someone gives me a suggestion. But I was a teenager that my best friend and I watched, you know, like how you had pay-per-view on like your DirecTV and there was the free section.
Yeah.
So we watched all of the free horror movies, including the dumbest ones ever, and like they weren't scary at all.
Do you have a favorite horror movie?
The horror movie that I most connect with, which I guess is my favorite, is 13 Ghosts. Have you seen it?
I love that movie. I love Tony Shalhoub. I like,
Yes.
what's the guy's name?
Who plays
Who plays
Shaggy?
who plays Shaggy. His name's like something Bennett or something.
Yeah,
Matthew.
I
Oh,
have no
what's his
idea.
name?
Matthew Shaggy.
Matthew Shaggy.
I don't know his name, but he does get cut in half in that movie.
Yeah, he does. He's also the worst guy in that movie.
Yes. But that movie's so good. I feel like because the premise is kind of goofy, but scary. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like this house and there's like 13, it's like a jigsaw style like trap house.
Yeah.
Not trap house like
Right.
drug
It's like a
house.
trap. Yeah.
There's no trap music playing. And like there's this dude who has like conjured all these ghosts and has them in cages and stuff and like releases them on people.
I don't know if you're ever interested in these kind of things, but have you ever been on like the wiki fandom pages where you can like Google like a character from a show and then you can go on like that wiki fandom page and they have like all of this like user information, like user written
No.
information? If you want to spend a couple cool hours, fun hours, go on like look up all the ghosts because they
Yeah.
have the entire backstory and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Because
cool.
there are 13 ghosts and only like a few of them like get a ton of screen time. But
Right.
like it'll go through all the 13 ghosts and like tell you what like their backstory is and like how they like had supposedly died and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, sweet. I got to do that. That's a movie
It's
that like
fun.
my best friend in elementary school, she was into horror movies before anyone else I knew. And so she was like, I watched this movie. It's so scary. Let's watch it. And it like scared the pants off of me. But then we watched it like 8 more times. So I wasn't scared of it anymore. I just really liked it.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your favorite scary movie?
I think my favorite scary movie is The Conjuring. And I think
Ooh.
mostly because like that is one that like was like the first scary movie that I watched, like I was severely scared. It
Yes.
used to be It because when I was little, that movie really scared me. But I feel like
Yeah.
I have like the original It, like the made for TV movie. But I feel like I really like nailed, like I really like I hit that like what's the saying, like something about a dead horse.
You beat a dead horse.
Yeah, I beat a dead horse. So yeah, I beat that with a dead horse. I
Beat
beat
that
the
with a
movie
dead
It.
horse.
I beat the movie It with a dead horse. But The Conjuring really really scares me. But I also like
Yes.
really love a lot. Like, I love horror movies, and this is my
Yes.
favorite time of year because while I love horror movies all the time, there's like a certain mindset that you get to put yourself in because you a lot of time like it's set around this time of year for like that
Right.
exact purpose.
And I feel like when it's kind of cold outside and it's like the nights are coming faster, like sundown's sooner, you can like get kind of cozy and watch a scary movie instead of being like sweating hot and you're like things seem spookier in the fall because it's
Yeah.
colder and darker.
Yeah, exactly. And like if you have a partner or someone that you're talking to, it's much more enjoyable to like be attached to them and be scared with them when you're
Yes.
not like sticking to each other because like
Yeah.
you're not wearing any clothes and you're sweating.
Right. Exactly. Um I feel like the first scary movie that I saw, and then I'll get into actually this movie, but the first scary movie that I saw that actually scared me, like for a prolonged period of time.
Hmm.
Because usually, like, I would watch a scary movie, like, in the theater, and I'd be scared while I was watching it, but then it'd be over, and I'd be like a little jumpy, but I wouldn't, like, think about it too much.
Yeah.
But Paranormal Activity, of all things, the first one, I saw in the theater, and then I had like nightmares about it, and I was thinking about it all the time, and I thought
Yeah.
that I was gonna be haunted.
They did really good branding for that movie. Like though when it's like especially the first of its kind, well not first of its kind, but like the first of its series, they really put a
Yeah.
lot of like thought into it. And it all like all the concepts are new to that franchise. And the
Yes.
branding that it was really good. And they do the whole like this is true, this is all real, and that kind of stuff. That's what
Right.
really gets you.
Well, plus like that was one of the first movies that I ever saw that was branded as like this is based on a true story when
Yeah.
it's like obviously not, or it's like very loosely based on a true story.
Did you ever hear about the branding that they did around the Blair Witch?
No, but I watched that movie a few times and the same thing. It scared me because I thought it was real.
Yeah. So when it first came out, I don't remember what year it was, they were like putting out websites and things like that, calling it like a documentary and talking like making these like fake like articles, and they made a whole website about like these three missing
Whoa.
people, and like they really went hard. Like
Holy shit.
they built a whole like world around it.
That's so cool. I love
Yeah.
that. All right, Host. Host is a movie that was filmed what, in March?
Yeah, I think probably it had to be like around then or like
Yes.
April.
Yes. So really early in the isolation times. And it's a movie that the synopsis is that six friends, or so many friends, are going to do a Zoom seance because one of their friends is like friends with a lady that does
Medium.
seances, a medium, thank you. And then like some of them aren't taking it seriously, and then things get serious, and then there's like demons and spookiness. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
guess we should say right now, this episode is all spoilers because
It's
we
yeah,
aren't
we're
gonna
gonna
hold
go.
back.
Yeah, no. So if you seen it and plan on seeing the movie Host,
Stop listening.
stop listening.
Skip to Trainspotting, which you probably have already seen.
Yeah, or not.
Like me. So I guess first off, I'm gonna say that I watched the movie I'm Home Alone this weekend, which made watching this movie extra spooky for me because I don't like being home alone already. Like I get really jumpy at night.
Yeah.
So then I waited until I was like sleepy enough to get ready for bed, and then I like got ready for bed, got in bed, and watched the movie in bed so that I didn't have to get out of bed and like brave the dark house.
That was a very interesting technique, and I didn't say this at the time, but I'm the exact opposite. Like I need
Oh,
to watch it. Like if I think I'm going to be scared by the movie, I have to watch it early on in the night so that I can like get up and turn all my lights on, like make
yeah.
something to eat, and like then put on something funny so that I
Right.
can like then just like go to bed normal.
But I can't like walk into a dark room after I watch a scary
Yeah. I
movie.
feel that, and like even like if it wasn't that scary, just like the idea of it
Yes.
puts me there in that position.
Right. Even if you're like, haha, that was like a stupid movie, and then you like see a weird shadow and you're like, what the fuck was
Exactly.
that? Okay, so I watched it in bed alone. Oh, and thankfully it was only 1 hour long. Like it was a really short movie.
It's a short watch, yeah.
56 minutes runtime.
Yeah.
So to start, the movie is based all in Zoom. There's no screen, like there's no images that aren't with like a Zoom outline, like the Zoom software.
It looks like if someone just like screen recorded their like computer while they were on a Zoom call, really.
Yes. And
Because
then
you even
like
have all of,
sometimes,
like the buttons on the bottom and stuff like that.
right. Yes. All the buttons. And then sometimes it would just like zoom into one of the panels instead of like showing everyone.
Yeah.
This at first I found very annoying because I'm living that Zoom life and I don't need to live someone else's Zoom life.
Yeah.
And like the first 10 minutes of the whole movie are them just like bullshitting on Zoom and like dealing with like technology issues and like waiting for their friends to connect and just kind of like, and they do a really good job, which also just made it frustrating, of like keeping in how Zoom kind of skips sometimes. So like images will stall and then like audio will stall a little bit. And I was like, this is so frustrating. Like I live this in my daily life. I don't want to see someone else doing this.
Yeah. It's kind of triggering at first, but
Yes.
I think that it's like it really builds the world to be like to really suspend like disbelief, you know?
Yes. I agree. And I'll just say right off the top, I really liked this movie, but it wasn't like chilling to the bone.
Yeah, correct.
But it was a fun watch.
And I think it was like unique in a way. This isn't obviously the first
Yes.
movie that has like done this formula, because there's like another
Yes.
movie called Unfriended that does like a very similar thing with Skype.
Yes.
But this one, just like the timing of it was like really, really good.
Yes. And I never thought about this. Well, I didn't think about this before I watched it, but I remember talking to my boyfriend in college. We were like FaceTiming and he was messing with me and was like, "What's that behind you?" And I was freaking out. And then we were joking about how we should make a movie called Face Crime about like a murder on FaceTime.
That's so funny.
So they stole my idea.
Yeah.
I have like a ton of notes as I took with Riverdale, which I'll share with you on Instagram. But it was like me while I was watching it. freaking out.
Yeah.
And okay, so the plot is there's 6 friends on Zoom, 6-ish, 5, whatever. And one of them has done seances with this medium before. So she's like hosting this event for the friends, and she wants them to take it seriously, but she kind of knows that they're not going to take it seriously. And everyone's like drinking, and she's asking them to not be drinking. Then the medium joins them and starts leading them through the seance. They all have candles. They're like pretending like they're holding hands in a circle, like you do in a seance in person. And then the medium asks, does anyone like feel a presence, hear any noises, et cetera, et cetera? Like you might feel someone touching you, or you might hear knocking or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So this one girl pretends that something is like grabbing her neck, and she starts freaking out and crying. And then while she's having this fake freak out, the seance or the medium woman's internet cuts out. So she's no longer like part of the party.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the woman who was like pretending to be with
Haunted.
be haunted, like turns to the camera and is like, haha, like that was a joke.
Yeah.
Which this gets the girl who's leading it, like the friend that's friends with the medium, really angry. And they start like yelling at each other while they're still trying to connect to the medium, but they can't get a hold of her.
Yeah.
And so while they're screaming at each other, all of a sudden, like one of them their chair gets pulled across the room.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, fuck, like stop fucking around. This isn't a joke. And she's like, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Okay, so from this point, immediately they just start like investigating all sounds and weirdness.
Yes. then spooky things actually start happening, because like Julia said, it really, once it starts, which doesn't typically happen in like an hour and a half, 2-hour long movie, because you have a little bit more time to build up.
Yeah.
And like something very subtle will happen, and then something less subtle, and then eventually it becomes this whole thing where it's like a full-on haunting. But it like immediately turned into like a full-on haunting where like things were in the background, like falling. Like
yes.
There's one character. She was actually my favorite character. She was the one who kept doing all the face filters.
Yes.
And at one point, the face filter like was on the person.
Yeah.
Or like it was on like nothing.
Yeah, it was just hanging in the room.
Do you want to hear like a kind of
that part
creepy?
Freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah. Do you want to hear something kind of creepy that happened recently that's related to that?
Yes, but yes.
on Microsoft Teams, if you're on a call with 2 other people, because I use Microsoft Teams for work, it makes your like camera smaller so that it fills your whole screen. So that like it would be half of this, but it would just be on my face and it would follow my face or whatever. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes
sense.
So
like the view that the people on the call with me get is like mostly just my face, and it's like following me if I move. Okay. And if another person enters, it then just cuts back to like the regular wide screen, so that it's like the full thing. That's the only time that it ever does that. Well, we are on this call, and then for like all of a sudden for like 20 seconds, it was like the full screen. Like it just like my friend, like my coworker was talking, and it was like the whole full screen. And I was like, I don't want to alarm anybody, but like this thing happened, and everyone like immediately got really, really weirded out.
Oh my God.
And my boss, who always talks about like how she talks to ghosts or like has experiences with ghosts, is like, I just got chills. Like she's like, oh yeah,
that's so freaky. I don't like that. Oh my God. But I guess like the thing that I was missing, because you're saying it's a shorter movie, usually there's like some buildup of everyone getting scared. Like there's someone that's like, don't, like it's just a joke, like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like don't and then there's people freaking out, like don't investigate it, like I'm sure it's like your dad in the other room or whatever.
Right.
And like I think that the like instances of the haunting did kind of escalate, because it was like a weird sound, and then it was a chair pulling, and then a weird sound, and then like you see dangling legs, and then like a glass breaks, and then like all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
But I was in my bed, and I was like, what are you people doing? Like you hear a weird sound in your attic, and you open the attic and
she goes up into the attic. Yeah.
I'm never going in my attic.
No. And that was one, like that one was confusing, because that was the character. So is it okay if we describe each character really quick, just to
Yeah,
because I don't
sure.
remember what their names are. There's like the main character who's like this, like it's the screen you're seeing. She's like the first one, and then you
The girl
have
who's running, who's like friends with the
who's like friends with the
medium.
medium.
She reminded me of Marnie from Girls.
Yes, she was very much a Marnie from
I
Girls.
wrote
Also,
she's like Marnie and not in a cute way.
the official show of our podcast is Girls, because I think
Yes.
that Julia and I have like we could have a whole podcast just about the show Girls.
We need to do
which
like a
we should.
rewatch. Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's like the friend with the glasses. That's the only way I can describe it, and she's the one who like made the joke initially.
Yeah.
Then there's the girl who's like afraid from the start. Like her whole thing is that she's like terrified from the beginning, and she lives with
She was
her
crying.
dad.
Yes.
Remember, like she lives with her dad. And then there's the girl who does the face filters, and then there's the dude, the one guy friend who has a girlfriend that nobody likes, and he leaves early.
Yes. Oh, and then there's another girl who was fighting with her boyfriend.
Oh,
at the start of it.
Yeah.
And he like is in the apartment with her, but they had a fight, so he went into the other room.
Yeah. But okay, I know I'm jumping around, but I want to talk about, or I want to ask you about like your thoughts on the cultural setting, and how well do you think that like they portrayed people who are like new in like quarantine?
That's a good question. I think it seemed like they were only like a month in, right?
Mm-hmm.
A month into quarantine. And I don't know, like they didn't talk much about like, oh, we don't see each other that often. They didn't really talk about isolation that much.
I guess specifically the relationship where like it was clearly like a new couple that shouldn't be living together, but then like kind of felt like they should, like they did end up living together because of everything going on.
Yeah, I guess like they were saying the other friends were like, you know, they shouldn't be living together, blah, blah, blah. But it was only a month in, so I didn't really feel that.
Yeah.
I guess like for me and Gary, it took a little while for us to like get on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
I don't really know what you're saying.
I think that I guess I'm saying is I personally think that they did a good job at taking like a lot of different people's like experiences and like made them feel real. You know what I mean? Especially with like the coming on to the Zoom call and like the people coming on the Zoom call, and like how easy it would be for like somebody just to jump off. And like I've had people, like we have like a little Zoom party at the beginning, like a month in. Yeah. And then you have the one friend who's like, okay, I was here for 5 minutes and I see everybody, like I'm gonna leave. And you're like, okay, that wasn't like what this was about.
Right.
You know?
I agree. Now that I understand what you're saying, I agree with you. And also it very much portrayed like the different ways people are doing isolation, where it's like some people are living alone and they are by themselves. Some people are living with a new partner. Some people are like back home with their parents. And then other hand, there's the dude, like the one male friend who's like basically on vacation living with his like rich girlfriend's family.
Yeah, in like the country somewhere, because like,
and you're like, wow, fuck them.
Yeah, exactly.
But they didn't really talk about it much, except for the one time where the girl with the glasses is like throwing sticks at the window at the beginning because she's like, let me onto the Zoom.
Yeah.
Which I felt was unrealistic. And then at the end, when she like busts into her friend's apartment and they elbow bump, I was like, fuck that.
Right. Also, how about when she like, okay, so obviously we know that everyone kind of like gets haunted by the end of this movie and they all end up dying in like some like weird gruesome death. But like when there's like two characters left who haven't died yet.
Yeah.
And the girl, like they're the two friends who like live in neighboring apartment buildings. She's freaking out and she puts on her mask and goes over to her friend's house. And you're like, if you're being haunted by a demon, you're not going to put on your mask. Oh, wait. No. You know what the scariest part for me was, you know, the girl who had, there's like the girl who was doing the face filters. No, the girl who lived with her dad.
Yeah.
She had made a video Zoom background that made it look like she was like going, like walking behind herself and like going to the dresser, so that when she's on the Zoom call, in the virtual background is that like it's her too, so it's like a haha goof. Well, she all of a sudden like disappears. She's like not in screen anymore, and they
Yeah.
see her. They see her. They think they see her because they forget about the Zoom background thing,
Yeah.
and they see her and like, oh, it's her. Like, hey, this thing's happening. Like, we're all being haunted. Blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, you see the girl's face slam into the camera.
Yes. That was so fucking scary.
Yeah, that was the scariest scare, I think.
And she's like all bloody and nasty and like, oh, and then there was like a chat. Okay, I wrote a question like, what is in the chat? Because there was like a 12 message chat that no one ever clicked.
That
But
was
I think it was when her head was hitting the keyboard.
Yeah. Because I think that
So
at one point
gross.
someone was like, wait, what is she saying? She said something like, what do these things mean? Because I think initially no one was looking when her head hit, like only we saw,
Right.
no one else was
Right.
paying attention. So we saw her face like briefly as it like hit the keyboard and it was like bloody. And we saw it, but no
Yes.
one was paying attention. They're like, wait, what was that noise? Because like
Yes.
she had fallen, like her head had fallen and you only saw the
Right.
Zoom background again.
Right. Yeah, that was really fucking scary. Because you like her screen was up, but you knew she was like behind that curtain.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really creepy. I also really like the concept of like don't fuck with like seances because
yes.
what happens is like when the girl pretends to be spooked, she's like, "Oh, it's my high school friend who I was nice to him one time and he killed
Yeah.
himself." And
Yeah.
that like and so when she was like I felt like
Yeah.
I felt like a pain in my neck, it felt like it was like a representation of him, and then the demon that came was like that, like it was like the guy hanging, you know what I mean?
Right. Right. Well, also I like the concept of don't fuck with seances because I don't know like on what side of belief and not belief I fall on, but I definitely fall on the side of if it is real, I don't want to be on the wrong side of
That's a metaphor for
it.
wear your mask, because even if it does nothing, don't you
Yes.
want to be on the side that was protecting people?
Yes, exactly. Also, back to her putting on her mask, like her putting on her mask and them like elbow bumping was only to prove that this was made during quarantine.
Yeah, I think it definitely was like a wink, you know, like
I
a nudge
didn't need
nudge.
it. I actually rolled my eyes when like all their friends are dead. She blasts into her friend's apartment and finds her alive and they don't hug. I was
Big
like, I
fist
would
bump.
hug her. I don't care if you have coronavirus or not. Like, I'm gonna hug you. All of her friends are dead.
That was like kind of the point I was making with the mask. Like if I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like look for my mask to put it on if like clearly people are being bludgeoned to death by like a ghost.
And you're like trying to get the fuck out as fast as possible.
Yeah. One part I thought was really funny. What do you think about the guy coming back and like not understanding what's going on?
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Also, like, he had that creepy doll that he like showed a creepy doll at the beginning, and then he like came back into the Zoom and was trying to scare everyone by like pretending this clown doll was possessed.
Mm-hmm.
And then like all of a sudden his lights go off, whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. That actor seems really familiar to me.
He seems like every bearded guy I've ever met.
Yeah, he's kind of like the roommate in Broad City.
It brought yeah.
I
Bevers.
can't Bevers, yeah. But I was like, okay, so when we were like back on the dude, he's like back in the Zoom, he's being haunted. That's when you first see like the face of the ghost demon thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, thank God. I wrote this down. Thankfully, the demon is just a plastic Halloween mask. It was like so unrealistic.
Yeah.
Because I
I
get
think
scared seeing like when it's done really well, when they have like a spooky person, it
mm-hmm.
scares the fuck out of me.
That's
But
why I like
there's
The
such a
Conjuring.
fine line. Yes.
Yeah.
There's such a fine line of like, this is clearly fake and low budget, and this is actually scary.
Right. But then you do the thing where you like, oh, I sometimes feel like some movies like overwork their baddie and it's like super CGI.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're like, oh,
Yes.
now doesn't seem like this could exist here.
Right. That's why. Oh, what's that movie? Is The Conjuring where she's like in the bathtub and there's all those like leeches about to get into the bathtub?
No,
with
that's
her?
Slither.
Oh my God, that's what I'm thinking of. And there's a scene where no, never mind. I can't remember it. I'm like mixing too many movies together.
You're
But
talking about there's a movie, you're talking about The Bathtub in the Hand.
No, I don't
Oh.
remember. That's like what I'm picturing that, but then I'm thinking of a different movie where they're like sitting in a dining room, like talking about these scary like hauntings that have happened, and then all of a sudden you see like a red and black mask behind his head, and it looks like Darth Maul.
Oh, that's not The Conjuring, but it's made by the same people.
Yeah,
It's Insidious.
Insidious. Yes,
Yeah. That's
like
another
that.
scary movie.
It's scary, but when that like stupid face showed up, I was like, okay, Darth Maul's here all of a sudden. Like, I'm
Right.
not scared.
Agreed. I 100% agree with that. But um the editing in that one is like spooky. Like when you like have like the still image of that, you're like, okay, because it just seems like a guy who's like, you know, the
Right.
pumpkin guy who's like wearing all black and has like a black turtleneck
Yeah,
but has a
yeah,
pumpkin for a head.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
how the guy's dressed, but then like with a red mask and like red
Yes.
eyes.
Yes, exactly. Um, also, like, I think that they set like maybe the premise of having a Zoom horror movie isn't so scary, but then as soon as you start seeing everyone's like rooms, then you see like all these open doors behind them. You see like weird lights, you see
Hmm.
windows, and you're like, fuck, fuck, fuck. That's where like scary shit's gonna happen.
Yeah,
You're like
exactly.
already getting spooked.
Yeah.
Um, what do you like? So you think the scariest part was her face like slamming into the keyboard?
I think that was the best jump scare.
Yeah. I was, oh my God. And then there's like, oh, this is something else I wrote down. I don't, something I don't like about haunting movies is that, and this is because I'm primed with like superhero movies, is that the demon ghost things that are doing the hauntings have every power available to them. Like they can do
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Like they can throw things off the wall, they can pull chairs, they can like lift humans up and like break their neck, they can do all
Right.
this crazy
Like
shit.
pick a thing.
Pick a thing. Like Superman has a few powers that he uses to his advantage, but then he also has flaws that you can capitalize on.
Yeah, but like it's only one. See, Superman is my least favorite superhero because it's like, okay, laser vision, X-ray vision, can
Super
fly,
strength.
super strength, like can super speed. Like those are all things
Yeah,
that like seem impenetrable. Like nothing can
right.
stop you. Like no, nothing you can do can stop him.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. There's other superheroes that have more than one way to kill them.
Yeah, but it's only
But
kryptonite. That's like a material that you can only get from like another planet
yes. Okay,
that's also destroyed.
that's how I feel about these demons. Like they don't have flaws.
Right.
But that's why they're so scary.
Right. I mean, I think that one flaw that a lot of demons have is like there's things in the physical world that can be said or done to stop them. You know what I mean? Like they can be
Right.
banished with like certain things. But
Right.
in other demon movies, like you kind of learn that some demons like you need a very specific like way of getting them. Like you have to like know about the demon to
Right.
be able to get rid of it. But like the whole thing was that this was like a made up demon because like
Right.
the concept in that movie was that like if you're in a seance and you like fuck around and make somebody up, it's gonna come back at you, but like
Right.
in a really like like a demonized, but like a really like messed up like Frankenstein kind of way.
Well, they said that when you like are trying to conjure a fake spirit, that opens the door for an actual spirit that isn't the fake one to join.
Yeah.
So it's just random. So it could have been like a nice friendly spirit, but it was a
Yeah.
bad one.
Um, what did you think it was scary?
I wasn't very scared actually. There was
Yeah.
like jump scares that made me jump a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
I pretty early on was like, I need to not think of this as really scary because I'm home alone and I know that's gonna fuck me up.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was like, if I can like make light of all this, then I won't be as scared.
Yeah. I think that's so funny that can be a decision that you make, you know?
I know it's weird. I tried to do that at did you ever go to like a amusement park Halloween haunting thing where there's just
Mm-hmm.
like scary people out to get you everywhere?
Yeah.
I tried to do that one year where I was just like, if I make like if I laugh about it and like try to talk to them, like I'll be okay.
It's yeah.
And then like someone would jump out and scare me, and I'd be like, haha, like cool costume. And then all of a sudden, this person came from the other side and scared the shit out of me, and I was like, okay, well, the rest of my night, I'm just horrified.
Right. Also, like they don't break character, which
No.
I don't understand the people who can like who are the people who like want to be in a haunted house. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's like a culture around it. And
Yes.
it's like, I think it'd be fun to an extent, but I feel like then I would be like, okay, now I'm in on the joke. Like, now I think it's funny with you. Like, I'm having fun with
Right.
you, which is
Okay,
like not how
same
those people are.
yes, same premise as pranks. It's like not fun to scare the shit out of people.
Right. Exactly.
But I feel like there are stories of like people breaking character because something truly ridiculous happens
Yeah.
or someone says something.
I one time screamed at a haunted like corn maze and the girl laughed. So that was fun.
Haunted houses are fun, but like I have to be really convinced to go.
Yeah.
When I
I'm
was
always
a
the convincer.
Yeah, you're the enabler.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my mom took us to Old Town Alexandria in Virginia, which has like a lot of haunted houses anyway and like a lot of history. And they do haunted houses, but they kind of painted it as it's like okay for all ages. And then
Hmm.
you had to like sign a waiver. So that like made us think like maybe this isn't okay. I
Like
was
kid
really
friendly.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like 10 or 11. But so we all go and it's in an old mansion and it's 3 floors and it gets like scarier as you go. And I made it through the first floor. Oh, and it's like all acted. So you're like your whole group is brought into the first floor and then there's like something that's happening and you have to like pay
Oh,
attention.
yeah.
And then all the scary stuff happens and then they like usher you to the next floor.
And the next scary thing happens.
And then the next floor was like you go into this room and there's a huge like dining room table with a table cover on it, and then there's like spooky music and all of a sudden like people and rats and stuff are just like crawling out from under there, and I started screaming and crying and my mom was like, okay, like I have to take her out, and my brother stayed with my mom's friend and like kept doing the whole thing.
Oh, that's so cute.
I guess the last question is, oh, I guess I have a few questions. The one thing that always takes me out of scary movies is when like things are inconsistent or like I have questions that don't really relate to the plot.
Yeah.
Which my question was, how are all these people in such like nice, cute, big apartments and they're like
Yes.
25?
Exactly. My question was like it's like a wide range. I agree with that. And to go off of that point that has nothing to do with like the plot is like they don't ever say how they're friends, but like
Right.
they're like one person has like a British accent, one person has like an Australian accent, and
Yes.
two people have like American accents. No one says where they are. And like
No.
the one British girl and like the main character who like is American live next to each other. So is it like are they in the UK and
Right.
like the American girls there, or is it the other way around? Do they all meet on like a study abroad experience? Like like
Right.
how do they know each other?
And if they live close to each other and they're good friends, why don't they live together? Because those two seemed the ones that live close to each other both live alone.
Right, and they both had big apartments that like
Like
had a ton of
multi-roomed
space. Yeah,
apartments. Yeah.
exactly.
So I was like, this is unrealistic.
Right, no, for sure. They all like the one you got to see one kitchen. There's one scene where like the girl, oh, it's the girl with the face filters.
Yes.
She's like showing her camera. Okay. Oh, here's another plot point. I'm gonna say this and I'll say another thing. The girl with like she was like showing her kitchen and like then the face filter is stuck on the thing
I
and then
think that was the scariest part for me.
she threw the flower and you could
Yes.
see like the footsteps. That was really
Yes.
scary. Here's my question. When you're on a Zoom call and you're going to walk around your house, which way is your camera?
Right. It's facing you.
It's facing you. It's not facing in front of you.
Okay. I guess also I was confused because I thought they were on their computers. So then I was like, you can't even turn the camera. Like, are you holding the laptop
Right.
this way and
That
walking
way.
around your
That was the part that I was
apartment?
like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Cause it's not like you don't have a camera on the front of your computer where you can look at it too. And it's like, are you that concerned with all of your friends seeing the haunted thing that
Right.
you
Like,
bring
I'm
everything
scared
with you?
shitless. Yeah. I would like bring the phone with me, but it would be facing me because I wouldn't be thinking about like, yeah, are you guys seeing this?
Well, that's what the girl in the attic did. The girl, there's a girl who like
Fuck
heard something in
that.
her attic and she went up the stairs and then got really scared. Oh no, she did have a phone because she put it on a selfie stick,
Yeah.
remember? And because
Yes.
she stuck the phone up into the attic and then you could see the feet hanging.
Yes. Yes.
That
Yes.
was that was a scary part for me.
I hated that. I hated that so much. Honestly, I forgot about the part with the footprints in the flower, and that scared the living shit out of me
Yeah, that was really scary. That
because
was
they were
like
like coming at her all of a sudden.
what's that Kevin Bacon movie where he gets invisible?
Ghost.
No. There's a movie where Kevin Bacon is like part of an experiment and he's invisible, and then he
Oh,
like becomes like aggro and like kills everybody.
whoa! I don't
And
know
something
that
similar like
movie.
happens there too.
That's why I was scared in Paranormal Activity, because she's like, there's a haunting happening, and they couldn't catch anything on camera. Or no, they didn't think about the cameras at first. So she's like, I'm gonna put flour in my doorway because I think that like something's coming in and I'll be able to tell. And she wakes up and there's like a big fucking creepy footprint in it.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that they had all of these like classic horror movie traits in them.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that I'm so sick of and I don't need to see ever again is like taking pictures with a Polaroid camera and then waiting for it to
Oh my
develop.
God. And then seeing what it is. Agreed.
Yes. I
I
was like,
hated
I
that.
wrote in this on my notes. I was like, I'm so sick of this camera gag. The Grudge did it better and we don't need it anymore.
Also when she like took a picture of like the camera, like the computer screen, like,
Yeah.
and I was like, what are you gonna see on that? Like the quality of that picture is not gonna be
And you can fucking screenshot on your
right.
laptop.
My last thought on the movie is the guy who came back and then caught on fire at the end was so random.
Yes.
He
It
like
was
comes
so
back and then
random.
he like goes into a barn and then it catches,
Yes.
like he gets like hit with something and he catches on fire. I was like, this has nothing to do with what has been tying like what sorry. This has nothing to do with what's been happening the entire movie.
Right. And it's weird to me that, well, I guess he wasn't there when she was joking around,
Yeah.
but I feel like it would have been more interesting if he came back in the Zoom and was like, guys, what the fuck? All this creepy shit's happening to me.
I agree with that. I just thought I was trying. I couldn't figure out like what role he was supposed to be playing with leaving and then coming back and like not really
Right.
realizing what was going on and then immediately dying
Yeah. Yeah. And they killed his girlfriend.
for no reason.
But they also killed the other girl's boyfriend. Remember, she was like, did he leave? Where the fuck did he go? And then all of a sudden he like falls from the
Fell from
ceiling
the ceiling. Yeah. What did you think about the end?
with the jump scare. Like they both died and then there's a jump scare, right?
Yeah, but then also with the whole like countdown, like the whole pop up thing of like your Zoom call ends, like your free Zoom
Oh,
call thing ends, and I was like,
I
ooh,
liked
that's kind of
that.
poignant. You know what I
I
mean?
liked that. And then they like they showed like the cast and crew as like members of the
Of
call.
the
I
Zoom
liked that a
call, that was
lot.
cool.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
Also, at one point, one of their screens said like, "You have 10 minutes left in your free Zoom. Like, upgrade now." And I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. Throughout the movie, I kept like I said, did you watch on your computer?
Yeah,
I kept like wanting to like check what I look like because I was on a Zoom call. So
yeah.
my friend Hannah, who recommended it to me, who actually, funny enough, was also the one who shared all those great mental health resources that I talked
Oh,
about last episode.
love her.
Um, we were talking about it and we wish that there was a way that it could have been like an immersive thing so that like you were also a square in the Zoom call.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. Like if like right now I'm looking at myself up in the corner, if that could just
Yeah.
stay the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you're like thinking about shit that's behind you. Like I'm like kind of getting spooked right now, being like, I need to look behind me.
Yeah, exactly. And I almost wish, how like it would go to like all like the whole grid and then it would just be one. It would be cool if there's a way that you controlled that. So like you could do
Yeah.
speaker view, you could do grid view. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about? Like the things that like we do
Yeah, that'd be cool.
in our daily Zoom stuff.
Yeah. And then like when you needed to, it would force like the big screen up.
Yeah, or not. Like how there's plays out there. I feel like I see these on TV all the time. They talk about it. There's one episode on Girls where they do it, but like the play is happening throughout the entire house,
Oh
and you just
yeah.
like walk around and experience different parts of the play, and then you have to
Yes.
go like multiple times to see certain things. It would be
Yes.
cool if like you had the power to do that,
That would
so
be
then
really
you
cool.
could experience it like from different like viewpoints.
Did you ever do the Choose Your Own Adventure Black Mirror episode, Mirror
Yeah,
movie?
Bandersnatch.
I
Yeah.
didn't do it. I haven't done it. Is it fun?
It's pretty fun. It doesn't really have a lot of like replay value, I would say. Like after I did it, like once we watched it and like try to do multiple endings. After you do it that many times, you kind of realize that there's like only a finite amount of endings.
Right.
But I think that I think it's fun.
That's cool. I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
Um okay, so my final thoughts are I like the movie It was spooky. I like that it was short. And I'm also thinking about the Zoom like concept now. It makes sense that it was only an hour
Yeah.
because you can't go beyond that.
Yeah.
And I also was very impressed with all the actors. Like, I'm usually very impressed with horror movie actors because they can convey such pure terror that I don't think I could ever fake.
Yeah, for sure.
So I thought they were all great. None of them like brought me out of it. There was just, and I think this was every movie, every horror movie, there's like some little things that are like, okay, we didn't need that. Or like you roll your eyes, or like just like a little like kitschy. I think that like
Yeah.
horror, the genre is all like just traditionally a little kitschy and like funky like that. So I wasn't like so mad about it, but I if I have to critique it, that's what I didn't like.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes back to your like, you choose whether or not you're going to suspend your disbelief, or are you going to like take the stance of like,
Right.
this is all fake and I'm going to like critique it.
Yes. And so out of I'm gonna rate. Can I just rate the movie instead of rating the make me?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good idea.
So out of how many? We'll do like 10 cheap Halloween masks.
Okay.
I'm gonna rate it like a 7 because
Nice.
I think it's like a really good concept. It was very fun and scary, but it wasn't like too scary,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very relatable. So I
Yeah.
could like imagine this happening to me versus like other movies where they do something stupid and then all of a sudden like they're fucking with a Ouija board or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or
Or
like
like,
they move into a house and there's a portal into the dark world.
yeah. Like I said, it's not a brand new concept, but I think that they were able to do something unique with it.
Yes. And I was annoyed with all the Zoom stuff, like technicality stuff of Zoom, but that is what made it realistic. Like it
I
actually felt like I was in a Zoom.
that was like, it also like puts you like almost on edge already. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If they can put you on edge on like at a different aspect, it's easier to like get you that, like it's easier to get you nervous from another angle. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if you're
Yes.
already kind of like up here at one point just for whatever reason, and when they push you a little bit further, like it switches so much easier.
Yes, totally. So I say 7 out of 10. What do you say?
I might give it like a little higher. I might do like an 8 out of 10. Because like I said,
Cool.
it's not perfect. There are some like weird, you're like, okay, what's up with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also like the kitschy stuff is also like really up my alley.
Yeah. And it was scary, I think.
Yeah.
Like I was actually scared
There were
while
scary
watching it.
spots. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for the make me.
Of course. You want to take a break?
Yes, please. Hey, Make Meers. I wanted to take some time to tell you about an amazing artist, Ray Ajmi. They're a non-binary artist based in Brooklyn, New York. They make comics, prints, and various crafts to help you feel your full feelings. Find them on Instagram at rajmi or at their website, rachelajmi.com. Honestly, I'm looking at their stuff right now, and I have to tell you, it's fucking awesome. I love their comics, which you can find on their website, and shout out to episode 13. They're way better than I could ever be. And they recently put on their Instagram a set of linen napkins with fish embroidered on them that I am obsessed with. I need a set for my future fancy apartment. You can follow them and get your own. Find links to their pages in the show notes. Bye. All right, we're back.
Hi, back.
You ready to do your dang make me?
I think I'm ready.
I think I'm ready too. I've been waiting many years for this synopsis. Well, I guess review.
This might not be the synopsis that we need, but it's the synopsis that we deserve.
It's the only synopsis I'm capable of retaining for this movie, so it's
Yeah.
the one I deserve.
Okay, so this week Julia made me watch the cult classic movie Trainspotting.
Yes.
Now, this is a movie that I feel like I think you and I had very similar ideologies of, I guess, because it's one of those movies that like is in the zeitgeist of like the kind of movies that we watch and the kind of content that we consume. So like I feel like a lot of podcasts or a lot of comedians or people or like whatever talk about this movie in a way that's like, this is a movie that everyone has seen, and this is a movie
Yes.
that like is part of like the culture.
Yes. It's also a movie, I don't know if you relate to this, but but it's a movie that many boys I had crushes on said was the best movie in the world, and that they were like horrified that I had never seen it.
I think that's so funny that you say that, because this movie is like along the lines of like Fight Club and Pulp Fiction. Like it
Yes.
has that sense of like feeling that you're like Nathan made the joke because we watched it together last night, and he was like, this is the type of movie that like straight boys watch and say like this is what art is.
Yes,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? And like we were joking, I was like, this definitely has to be one of those movies that like straight boys like. So it's really funny that you say that boys in high school
It
told
is
you that like thought that like, that's art.
a more explicit story is that one time in college I was hooking up with this guy and he had me come over and we were doing the damn thing, but he had put on Trainspotting and as like we were gonna watch this movie. We were never gonna watch the movie.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden we're like having sex and like there's brutal murder and like drug abuse happening. And I was like, we have to turn this off.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? It's so good. Like it's a good movie. And I was like, it's not ruining the vibe.
That's so funny. That there's a very specific story, very similar to me, a story of mine. When I
Yeah.
lost my virginity, I was in high school, and we were watching the movie Cool Runnings,
Oh
and
my
that played in the
God.
background while I lost my virginity.
Honestly, that's the best.
But like that's the vibe, because if I'm in the middle of like coitus and I look up and I see Cool Runnings, I'm not going to be like,
Yeah.
oh. But
Right.
I
You're not
can
going to be like,
imagine,
ugh.
after seeing Trainspotting, I can imagine that. So before I jump into like
Yes.
the movie, I want to know, what, since you've never seen it, like what is your understanding of what the movie's about and like the
Okay.
plot?
So, bit of a misnomer. I've seen the first like 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
because this boy pretended like we were going to watch it.
Right.
And other times I'd started to watch it and I was like, maybe I'll get into this. And then I never did.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to me with Pulp Fiction. I didn't watch it for a long time. I watched like the first 10 minutes a bunch of times. And then one day I was like, I'm going to get really stoned and watch this because I think it's the only way I can ever consume it. And I did that and it was fine.
Yeah.
So I think that this movie is about, who's the main actor? Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
He's a drug addict and he deals drugs. It's about heroin. It's like the life of like a heroin junkie in the UK and all the shit they get into for their fix. That's what I think it's about.
That's basically exactly what it's about.
Oh.
So, Trainspotting came out in 1996 and was directed by Danny Boyle, who directed Slumdog Millionaire and 28 Days Later.
Oh,
which
great.
Those are two other movies that are in the zeitgeist that everyone, like, it's one of those movies that everyone assumes that you've seen.
Yes.
And I've never seen them. And it's based off of an Irvine Welsh book from 1993
Okay.
of the same name. And the movie has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes and has won a ton of awards, like BAFTA awards and Empire awards, which I don't know what an Empire award is, but I just like,
sounds
I'm assuming some kind of like UK like awards thing.
Yeah.
And my brief synopsis of it, which is very close to what you said, is Ewan McGregor deals with his heroin addiction in 1996 Scotland, does lots of crimes, and tries rehab. So basically the entire movie is like the antics of a drug addict,
right,
struggling with potential sobriety, and then also like his like 4 shitty friends and like the antics that they all get up to.
right.
And like in the movie, a lot of the movie takes place in like this this empty house, basically, where there's like some guy who like is almost like a bartender who like helps them get high and stuff like that. But they also talk about like how they get the money and like how they steal stuff. And like I said, he has these 4 shitty friends, 2 of which are already drug oh wait, there's 5 of them total. 2 of them are already drug addicts with him, and then 2 are not, and then the one ends up becoming a drug addict with them.
Okay.
Lots of needles. I'm not going to say that I'm afraid of needles, but I did write down that I don't love looking at them all the time.
I don't love looking at them, period, ever.
And also heroin specifically as a drug has always been one that's made me very uncomfortable, just because of like anything that I've like watched or read about like heroin addiction. It's like, I feel like heroin specifically is a very dirty drug, because like you
Yeah.
have like this like solid thing that you put in a spoon and then you heat up and then you put it into a syringe and then put that syringe into your body. And it's
Right.
like, I don't know what the sensation is. Apparently it's fucking amazing because that's what they'll talk
Right.
about how great it is. But I can't imagine doing that.
No, and also like the whole process of like putting the tourniquet on you and like and then everyone just like goes like into mush mode after. It's like
Yeah.
so something about it does also make me feel like really yucky.
Yeah. So I sometimes I do consume that because like I like to think or not think, but I'd like to like learn about it. And it's kind of like an
Yeah.
interesting thing. I
Yeah.
recommend there is a book by Stephanie Whittles Wax, who is the sister of Harris Whittles, the late
Yeah.
Harris Whittles who passed away of a heroin overdose. He was
Yeah.
a writer for things like 30 Rock. He was a writer for
Parks and
Parks and
Rec.
Rec. And
You've definitely
you
seen him before and
yeah.
consumed stuff that he wrote.
Exactly. And he's hilarious and he passed away in his 30s. And so he just wrote a book called Everything's Horrible and Great, I believe. And she
Hmm.
also has a podcast called Last Day.
Yeah.
And Last Day is about heroin addiction. She goes into the stories of a couple different people who had passed away of addiction in their last days and talking to their families and seeing all of, like the resources and things like that that are there. So if you're actually looking for good content that is about what's actually happening with heroin right now, check out Last Day. It's a
Yeah.
podcast. It's
Um
amazing.
Does Trainspotting like I feel like there's a lot of movies that kind of glamorize heroin use. Like a lot of movies about the 60s and 70s where they're like everyone's all like wiggly and they love each other and it's like cool and fun
Mm-hmm.
and you're like functional as a heroin addict. Does Trainspotting do that?
Yeah. No, it definitely does the opposite of that, which I really appreciated. Like all the spaces that they're doing heroin are very, very like dirty. You're
Yeah.
seeing like basically all of the like the consequences of anything, and if any like the only time that they've gone into some kind of like dreamlike state where things kind of seem ephemeral is when he is detoxing,
Okay.
and that's the only time like they shift the kind of like camera lens or like
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like they make it seem a little bit different than just like reality, and like that's when he
Yeah.
puts everything else is kind of like if someone's like high on heroin, they're like laying on a ground like that has like needles around them and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
um so before I get into like my thoughts about like the characters, Nathan insisted that we have to have a discussion on whether or not Ewan McGregor is hot.
He is. End
Okay,
of
so
story.
Nathan's like, he's hot. That's my opinion. Like that was the end of it. And it's so funny because I looked up, Ewan McGregor was like 25 in this movie, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize how skinny he was ever.
Yeah,
Like
super
Ewan McGregor
skinny.
kind of has like he's not like skinny. I wouldn't see he's skinny or he's like fat. He's like has like a full body. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he was like shirtless and actually naked in this movie. You get to see every body part except for vagina in this movie. You see boobs, you see penis, you
You see
see
taint.
butts. No, you don't see taint, unfortunately.
Damn.
But you see him naked. And you see him naked. Anyway, I didn't realize how skinny he was, and
Do you
he
think he's
looks kind of
hot?
like a heroin. Oh yeah, he's hot. I think he's hot too. But
Do you
I
think
we
he's
need to have
hot
a
in
discussion.
Star Wars?
Yeah, that's actually my first Ewan McGregor content.
Yeah, me too.
Have you ever seen The Island?
No.
Oh, it's another Ewan McGregor thing.
I feel like he's hot even like now.
Yeah. Oh
Like as
yeah,
an
for
older,
sure.
like rugged man.
Oh, for sure. I just when he was like young and skinny, I was like, I'm kind of on the fence because also in the movie he's like really pale and he like overdoses at certain points. Like the whole
Right.
character of it is like gross.
I'm
But
picturing Klaus from Umbrella Academy, like his body.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it definitely doesn't like glamorize it. And like the one thing I'll say about this movie, there's not like an overarching like plot. You know what I mean? It's kind
Okay.
of like the beginning of it is like kind of setting up the scene and introducing all these characters. So he has like I said, he has two drug addict friends. One is like kind of
Yeah.
like the mastermind guy, and he has like this cool blonde hair, but he's like always trying to like he's kind of like the leader of how they're gonna get all of like their money. So like
Yeah.
stealing or all this kind of stuff, or like quick jobs and all that kind of stuff. Then there's like one friend who's like dumb. He like doesn't know how to speak very well. Oh, speaking of speech, they all have like a Scottish accent or
Yeah.
Irish. I think it's Scottish. But like I was like, I don't understand what you're saying at all. We
Yes.
turned on like subtitles, and I still didn't understand what they were saying. Like
Oh
they
my
have like such like
God.
a different like not vernacular, but like different like colloquialisms that we just like didn't
Yes.
understand. Like at one
Yes.
point, the one character who like okay, so let me set up the other two characters. I'm sorry that I'm jumping around.
That's okay.
Then you have like the two clean friends, and one's kind of like an athlete guy, and then the other guy's like the local like bartender hothead.
Okay.
Like this is like the five people friend group. And at
The
one
five
point,
genders.
yeah. And at one point the drunk hothead, like they go out clubbing and he like is hooking up with this girl and realizes that like they have like male-born genitalia and like
Yeah.
freaks out about it, and Ewan McGregor's like, it could have been fun. He's like, I'm not the pithy or something. Like he like says some kind
What?
of word that was like, what is this word? I don't
Oh my
understand.
God.
And it's always like, and he's always like using the word cunt to like describe like a dumb
Yes.
guy. He's like, these daft cunts. Like my best example of like this character is like, I was at the pub and this daft cunt like bumped into me and ruined me suit.
Honestly, I love that people in Scotland say cunt all the time. I think it's
Yeah.
very fun. It makes me laugh so hard.
Cunt was the one word that like I was never allowed to say when I was a teenager. So
It's
I've
so
always
harsh.
internalized that it's like like it's the worst word, especially when like you call a woman a cunt, like you're just
Yeah.
like diminishing them to like their private parts.
There's an Andy Daly character that calls people he calls himself a wee dumb cunt. Kills me.
But so those are the characters. With the like the editing and stuff like that, like I said, there's not really a full story, but I like that it was kind of segmented in like different parts. So like
Yeah.
you set up with all the characters, and then you kind of go into like he decides that he wants to be sober. So he
Okay.
tries sobriety and fails, and like time varies, like the pace of time. So at the beginning it feels very like real time. Like this is one event, and then it kind of like skips around.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is like a character like doing a monologue about something that all of the characters are listening to, which I really like.
Yeah.
Because you got to know the characters that way, and then like
Right.
see their reactions and stuff like that, and then it would be like a jump cut to like something else, or like they're telling the story and like they do like a jump cut to the part of the story, and then they go right back into like
Oh, cool.
it almost had like a Wes Anderson kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I mean? And like a lot of like putting characters in the center while like they talk, and it kind of like pans out, so you see their setting as they give a monologue.
That sounds
And like
cool.
I really appreciated that. There's one part that made me very uncomfortable. So in his first attempt at sobriety, he tries to do it all on his own. So he
Yeah.
tries to like lock himself in his room. You know what I mean?
Like cold
Or-
turkey.
And does it cold turkey, but he tries to get these pills that will help him. I think it's what's that drug that you take when like you're addicted to heroin, and
Methadone.
I think it's methadone. So he buys it off of like some guy, but it's only like he only gets them in suppositories. Like he can only
What?
find like he's like, so it's this whole thing where he like shoves these suppositories up his butt, and he's like walking
Yeah.
down the street, and he like suddenly gets diarrhea because I guess heroin makes you constipated. So when you go off heroin, you have like the runs. So he
Yeah.
like there's a scene where he
Opiates do
like
that.
yeah. There's a scene where like he goes to the bathroom and he still wants the suppositories because he needs that for his like thing. So he sticks his hand in there, and like it's like a
Oh.
disgusting toilet to begin with. And he sticks his hand in, and then he slowly, like, this is where it gets kind of like weird and ephemeral. He like his head he puts his whole body in, and eventually you could watch his whole body go in. And then like it cuts to a scene where he's like in the ocean or something, and he grabs them and he climbs back out.
Whoa.
There's a lot of scenes where like really gross things
Weird.
happen. There's one scene where all of his friends go out clubbing, and they like you see like their entire night, and Ewan McGregor like hooks up with like this hot girl from like the club or whatever. And I think because like when you're on heroin, you don't really have you have a low libido. So when you like again, when you become sober, it all kind of comes back to you. So like really needs to hook up with this girl. And like you see all these like different scenes of like these other like his friends hooking up with like their respective girlfriends or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's one scene where the guy falls asleep before he can have sex with this girl. So she tucks him into bed, and the next morning he shat the bed. And there's a scene where he has like the sheets in his bed, and he goes out to the kitchen, and she lives with her parents, and he's like, hey, I had a wee bit of an accident, and like they're like, it's fine. Like, first of all, the idea of like
Oh,
all these parents like are okay with their sons who are like in their like mid-20s just like going out and getting blasted every night, and it's
yeah.
fine. And like that's just like that's just what it was for
And
like
like
these
bringing
young
home
adults.
people. Yeah, what?
Well, I mean, it was like his girlfriend, so like they had like they would know who he is.
Right, right.
This is not Ewan McGregor. This is his like this is the dumb friend.
Yeah.
Um, he's like, I had an accident. Like, where's your washer? I'll wash them. And she's like, and his mom's like, oh no, I'll wash them. I'm not gonna try to do the accent anymore. He's like, no, 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 I'll do it. She was, it's my sheets, and she yanks them from him, and shit goes everywhere, like all over, like the
Oh
kid.
my God.
And they're eating an English breakfast, and it looks fucking disgusting because like it's like beans and like it looks like a hot dog and like
Mushrooms.
yeah, it looks so gross.
Ugh. I feel like no one eats that in real life. Like
Right.
you have to get that at a restaurant. That's disgusting. Um, I feel like that's just like too much.
Oh no, it gets worse because then there's a scene where well, I won't get to that gross part yet. Ewan McGregor hooks up with this girl he meets at the bar, right? Like this whole
Yeah.
thing, he like gets his sex drive back, so hooks up with this girl who like is matching his like snappy energy. Because like the whole
Yeah.
thing is that like Ewan McGregor is like smart but like dumb. You know what I mean? Like he clearly is smart because he's doing all this work to get like money for heroin, and like
Mm-hmm.
he's making bad decisions to get it.
Right, because
You know
he's
what
an
I mean?
addict. That's what addicts do.
Yeah, exactly. And like he kind of has like a snappy like back and forth with people,
Yeah.
and she's matching it, and she's hot and all this kind of stuff, and they hook up, and she's like, you can't stay here, and he's like, why? She's like, you just have to leave. So he ends up like going out in the hallway of her house and like sleeping on this couch in the hallway, and he goes
What?
downstairs, and like these two people sitting is like, hey guys, like what's up, are you like this girl's flatmate? And they're like, flatmate, that's daft, that's a good one, haven't heard that one yet.
Oh my
And he
God.
turns around, and the girl is in like a high school like uniform. So I put Ewan McGregor has sex with a teenager in this movie, and it's like fine, like the parents just like don't say anything, and she doesn't come back except to be like his pen pal at one point when he like moves away.
What?
Yeah.
That's so strange. I
Yeah.
like part of me is thinking, like I just said, that poop scene was like a little over the top, but so my mom's in NA. I've been to a lot of NA meetings. I've like heard all the stories of people that she knows, and like crazy shit happens when you're a drug addict and when you're like fiending for drugs and when you're on drugs. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't think it really is that blown out of proportion. It's just like they're choosing very specific things.
Yeah, I mean, and they show all these scenes of them like robbing people. They
Yeah.
stole like a TV from like an old home, like an old person's home, and like sold it. There's like a
Yeah.
scene where he's stealing money from his parents, like a lot of the typical stories that you hear of like heroin addiction,
Right.
you know. So
Yeah.
he relapses because like he didn't really go through any kind of program.
Right.
So there's a scene that's so disturbing in this movie when he's back on heroin again. He's like with his like junkie friends, and the entire time like there's this girl who's like in this empty house that I was telling you about. Like they
Yeah.
hang out and like do heroin in this house that's kind of like
Yeah.
basically like a heroin bar. I guess that's the only way I can
Opium
describe it.
den.
And there's a girl and there's a baby around a lot, and it's
Whose
just like
baby? The
around
girl's
the
baby?
girl's baby. And at one point they're like all like high off heroin, and the girl starts screaming and like is freaking out, and they
I'm so
go
nervous.
to the baby, and the baby's dead, and it's like blue.
Oh my God.
And you find out that it's his friend's, like no one knows who the baby's dad is until like the guy with the blonde hair who's like the mastermind basically is like
Yeah.
having an emotional reaction to it all.
Oh my God.
And you find out that it's like his baby, or it was his
And the baby just like suffocated?
I think that they just like, I think it was like neglect. I think that like it was like starvation or something, because
Oh
like
my
they're just like high and
God.
laying around the whole time, and the baby's just like
Right.
dead.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's
So all these things
disturbing.
happen. Like they get arrested when they're trying to rob this department store. The one friend who was like the athlete, his girlfriend ends up breaking up with him, and he gets hooked on heroin and then overdoses and dies.
Oh
So
my
like a
God.
lot of all these things are happening. So like Ewan McGregor's like, you know what, I'm sober for real. So he
Yeah.
tries to move away to this like neighboring city and like gets a job like working in like an apartment like like a property management place, and he's like trying to like do it all right, but then his friends come back and like live with him and like are mooching off of him because his one friend is like a fugitive of the state for some reason, and
Yeah.
another guy like is also got in trouble and just can't be there anymore. So like they're mooching off of him, and he gets really annoyed, and he's like really trying to like do it all right. So eventually, like the end of the movie is like they somehow land this like really big drug deal. Like they accidentally
Yeah.
get a very very large amount of heroin. Like
Yeah.
some drug deal went bad with one of their drug dealers, so they end up with this big thing of heroin that needs to be delivered, and they get like a ton of money for it. Like they
Okay.
get like $4,000.
Whoa.
No, 16 grand. They get 16 grand. So it's
Wow.
like
Shit.
$4,000 each, and they were gonna split it. And they keep making jokes about how like they're gonna like one of them is gonna steal it, and like they're all trying to stay on top of each other because like they're all bad friends to each other.
Right. They're not friends.
Right, exactly. And in the end of the movie is Ewan McGregor like taking all the money and dipping and like leaving.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, but there's another scene when he like is actually going through like withdrawal. His parents lock him in his childhood bedroom, and this is the scene where it gets like really really ephemeral, and like it gets all wavy, and like it could like a fisheye lens or whatever, and the
Yeah.
dead baby is like crawling like on the ceiling, and it's like right above Ewan McGregor, and his head turns around. The
Oh
baby's
my
head turns around and is like
God.
looking at him, and
What the fuck?
this is where Nathan and I are both kind of like, okay, this is just like straight men not knowing how to like invoke a real emotion. And they're like with the dead baby, and like the dead baby like crawling on the ceiling is like just trying to shock you
Right.
to trick you into thinking that you've had like an emotional experience with like the movie, and that like it's art because like you've had this reaction, when really it's just like
Right.
fucking disturbing.
Right. And also, like, I'm pretty sure when you go through withdrawals of like heroin withdrawals are like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And you do see things and you hallucinate and you hear things and whatever because you've like changed your DNA to rely on this to stay alive. And that's why you have to do methadone and whatever. But a lot of it is just like shame and regret and guilt.
Yeah.
So you could evoke that emotion by like having him in his room, like thinking through all this stuff and like beating himself up, not like clearly he's having some really strong emotions. He doesn't need to like see a dead baby. He can just be thinking about like how he feels bad about it.
Right, exactly. Also,
And that doesn't need to be represented, right? It doesn't need to be represented with a dead baby.
Yeah, exactly. So those parts were like really hard to watch, just because like it wasn't like, oh, I'm so heartbroken for these people. I was like, who sits down and writes this and then films it and then edits it and then is like, I want all these people to watch it.
Right. And by the way, it's high art.
Right. And everyone's going to love it. And all these straight boys are going to insist that these like women who they clearly don't understand, they're like, the men don't clearly cannot understand like a women's emotion. There's also like the role of women in the show is to be like a sex object. Like every woman's naked at one point, and they're all like, they're mostly talking about having sex with men, and like that's like their role in this movie.
It does not pass the Bechdel test.
Right. No, not for sure.
But also, like, they succeeded. This movie is like a cult classic that people like point out and say that they love and that they say is like part of the classics you have to watch.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right. But it seems like it does have redeeming qualities, though. Like if it came out today, who knows how it would be received.
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple like additional thoughts I have. One, there's a rave scene, and I regret never having been able to go to a rave.
Agreed.
And I'm nervous that by the time we're allowed to go do stuff again, I'll be too old to go to a rave appropriately. And during the rave scene, Ewan McGregor has the best line that I've ever heard in my entire life. In 1,000 years from now, there'll be no guys, no girls, just wankers.
Just wankers.
He's talking about how like life has been changing, and like as he gets older, he's realizing that culture is changing, and that like he's like guys are turning into girls and girls are turning into guys. And he's like, in 1,000 years, there will be no guys, no girls, just wankers. And
everyone's
I was like,
a fucking
honestly,
asshole.
I believe that. Like that's exactly how I
no genders,
identify
just
as a
assholes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
But that's kind of like everything. I know I just like yelled at you about the movie for so long.
No, I really appreciate it. This is what I was looking for, because this is kind of what I was assuming the movie was like, but then I never got into it. And it's interesting to hear you say that there's no like plot. There's nothing that's solved by the end of this movie. There's no like issue that comes up that's solved.
It's just antics.
Right. Which I guess that's like, that is the plight of an addict, is that even when you think your storyline is going to be, I'm going to get sober and be okay, like that's not the case for a lot of people. But I don't, it's tough to make that into a movie, like a successful movie.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why when I first started watching it all those times, I was like, this is so disjointed and like I don't care what's happening.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's almost like you have to know what you're getting into
Yeah.
to like sit
Would
down and
you
watch it.
recommend this movie?
I think that if someone was like, I like this is the type of movie I like, I would say, oh, you should watch Trainspotting. But if
Yeah.
someone was like, hey, I'm looking for a movie to watch, like, do you have a recommendation? I would never say Trainspotting because
Right.
like I didn't like the way I felt in a lot of the times that I was
Yeah.
like there with it. And I'm like, I studied film. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in any kind of way, but I
Yeah.
also don't like the idea like when someone says, well, you have to sit there with the uncomfortable feelings and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, I don't have to. And I think that it
Right.
takes a deranged person to like think that that's the type of thing that a person should go through.
Right.
It's all trauma porn. It's 100%
Yes.
trauma porn.
Yes. Plus, there's plenty of movies that are uncomfortable to sit with that don't make you like because it's like human emotion being expressed and you can like see yourself in the characters. It's not just like, okay, there's shit and blood and puke everywhere.
The movie, there's no metaphor in the movie. Like the movie is
Yeah.
what it is. So like the movies that I do enjoy when there's a disturbing scene because it's evoking a separate emotion, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this one example that we studied a lot in college was, have you ever seen Black Swan?
Yes.
And you know the scene where she pulls on her fingernail,
Yes, I
like
hate that.
the
I hate that. I think about it all the time.
so that's one way that I was like, okay, that's not just about the fingernail.
Right.
That's about like the stress level. Like this is what her mind's making her see. And like this thing is just like a metaphor for like another part of like the
Yes.
story, like a much
Yes.
smaller part of the story. But like a baby dying due to like a like
Neglect.
neglect because of heroin, like uh abuse is
Right.
what it is.
Right. I think something else that I've been struggling with a lot lately is media that portrays addiction because I come from a family of addicts and I've had a lot of experience with addiction and there's never a balanced representation of addiction. It's
Yeah.
always, from what I glean from your representation here, is that addiction is ruining these people's lives and there's no like it's not their fault. Like everyone's
Yeah.
saying, they're fucking up. They keep doing these shitty things. Like watch this addict just like spiral into his own demise
Yeah.
rather than like he's trying to get clean and he can't and like he doesn't want to be doing this and all the other shit that's like built into addiction and that's really hard to represent both sides of that. But I
Yeah.
think especially in America we've just like demonized it to this point where everyone's like addiction is a thing that you like buy into and then it's your fault that you're ruining your life, which
Yeah.
I don't believe that's true.
One thing that of note was I was surprised at, I mean, 96 isn't that long ago, but it's significantly a long time
Yeah.
ago, how we're still having the exact same conversation about heroin addiction with the exact same vocabulary as we
Yes.
were in 93, 96, or
Yes.
even further than that. I mean, this is like when, like, that was when it was took place. And how Europe has just a lot of places in Europe, I should say, have like handled heroin addiction so much better, and then
Yeah.
having like these safe injection sites and access to methadone and stuff like that. And those are
Right.
all things that in the United States everyone's so against, but it's
Yes.
because everyone thinks that like there's a larger enemy that's bringing heroin into the country, and we're really trying, like
Right.
they're trying to get rid of them rather than
Yes.
looking at like the system in which like people are getting addicted to heroin and
Yes.
saying like there's a problem there and there's an actionable step we can take. It's more about blaming foreigners for bringing heroin, or like
Right.
all these like quote unquote thugs who like sell heroin to innocent
Yes.
people, or that like, or when like a well-to-do like white young athlete gets addicted to heroin, oh, like that was like because like he had an injury and then he got addicted to
Right.
opiates
Opiates,
opioids
yeah.
opiates
Opiates.
and then they got addicted to heroin, and like that was just like a bad case and that
Right.
sucked. But then like a poor person gets addicted to heroin for a very similar reason, and it's their fault and they're a junkie. So we're going to take
Yes.
away their access. They're going to take away their access to methadone because they're going to get addicted to that, and then there's not going to be safe injection sites, so now everyone has HIV.
Yes. I was talking to someone, my mom, about this recently, where I think that like we've been fed this lie of addiction, especially in America, but basically everyone,
Mm-hmm.
where you think we are all told that like other people deal with addiction, not that it's like lurking in human genetics and like
Yeah.
your body like feeds off of the chemicals in your brain, and everyone's like a few decisions away from like being addicted to something,
Yeah.
gambling, alcohol, drugs, food, whatever, sex. And but because we like shun addicts, we say like, oh, that's someone else, like someone else is doing that, that's not in my family. Or
Yeah.
when it is in your family, you're like making all these excuses. Like, how many people do you know that they have like a wacky uncle that like you only see sometimes, or like an uncle no one talks about, or a sibling that like got sent away somewhere, or
I think it's like
it's
every
like,
family.
right. And it's like, I'm not going to say my aunt is a alcoholic, but she does cause a scene in every family meal. Like,
Yeah.
how can we not put these two together?
Yeah, for sure.
But it's interesting you say that like it's the exact same representation, because you're right, like we haven't changed our dialogue around addiction, and it's only like the success stories that we find valuable.
Yeah. And it's just because, like I said, a lot of places in Europe, in the UK, have just handled it better, and they have not eradicated the addiction, but they've handled it a lot better. And think about
Right.
like decriminalization. Like the other thing is like criminalizing like heroin addiction. That sounds fucking insane. Like
Yes.
someone struggling with like an actual disease, and you're gonna get mad at them and like
Right.
not give them the resources because they're addicted to
Right.
heroin. Why
Right.
wouldn't you try to help these people?
It makes
And
no
like,
sense.
for example, Portugal like decriminalized all drugs. They've been able to handle like drug addiction better because these people aren't in trouble if they're addicted to heroin.
Right.
They can get, there's like, they're given empathy and the resources to get through it.
Right. Plus, if you put somebody in jail, in prison for drug abuse, like there's drugs in prison
Right.
and they're just going to keep doing them.
Yeah. And it's going to be even more illegal, and they're going to get more in trouble.
Or they're going to die. Like you can die from withdrawals.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
But yeah, that's Trainspotting.
So my question is, how do you like, what do you rate it out of 10 Halloween masks? But also, like, do you think it deserves any of its credibility of like being a quote unquote classic?
I think that it is a classic no matter what I say, just
Yeah.
based on like numbers, and like that has nothing to do with me. I disagree with it, but I'm also a person who says that things that have been deemed not classics are classics. Things that I think are classics that people don't think are classics.
Yeah.
I think that if that's what a person needs to feel something, all
Yeah.
right, I'm happy I've watched it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd 100% recommend it, and I would never watch it again.
Do you feel like you are now like you'll understand all of those like connections and that people make to it and like comparisons?
I'm curious because I didn't know what the movie was about at all. Like I didn't even know
Yeah.
it was about heroin addiction. I thought it was like a wacky UK comedy kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of like
Yeah.
a, what's that movie where the guy gets the pen pal, so he goes through Europe and he's trying to hook up with her.
I don't know.
There's a movie like that, and I was like, it's gonna be like that kind of thing, but it was
Yeah.
not that kind of thing. Just because like the branding of it, it does not seem like, because it's like the orange and like you have Ewan McGregor's like big head, and it's like kind of like a
Yes.
angle or whatever. I'm happy I watched it, and I'm excited to see what those references are now with knowing
Yeah.
it, because like if I hear Trainspotting, it kind of just like flies over my head, and I just
Right.
like don't have a feeling about it. So I'm curious
Right.
now what the context is going to be.
Yeah. You're like part of the club now.
Yeah, I think I would rate it 6 out of 10 Halloween masks. No, I'm gonna get a 5.
Okay.
A very similar rating I gave last episode. I 100% think that I got something out of it. but I 0% think that it's a classic and I would never recommend it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, that makes total sense to me.
So 50%, 5 out of 10 plastic Halloween masks. Darth Maul.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Which
for
is actually really funny that we're Darth Maul because Ewan McGregor plays young Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. Wow. And
Sorry,
he's hot.
I interrupted you. I just didn't realize I made that connection.
Nathan, speaking to you directly, Ewan McGregor's hot. Period.
I think so too. And also when I first started dating Nathan, he looked like a young Ewan McGregor, but he changed his hair and everything now.
He should get one of those like tiny Jedi braids.
He should. Oh my God, yeah. The other thing that I would say is that the costuming in this movie is really good, and Ewan McGregor wears like this cute little yellow crop top a lot in the movie. So good on him for that. Top. I do love a crop top.
It seems like they have pretty. He had pretty progressive like gender politics at the time too.
I think that Europeans just generally do, especially like in the 90s and the 80s and stuff like that.
True. Well, thanks for being my personal watcher so that I don't have to watch it.
You never have to watch that movie again.
But now that you say it, like now I'm like interested to watch it because you vetted it for me.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. You want to get into next week's Make Me's?
I do want to do that.
All right. You can go first.
Okay, Julia. Next week, I want you to make slime.
Yay! I'm so excited.
That was a listener make me suggestion from the Instagram.
That's so funny. I have that on my list for you from like the very first time we made lists.
Like 3 years ago now.
Yeah. Okay, so next week for you, a little backstory. I've been eating a lot of like Thai food recently that I make at home, and I've been using chopsticks. And I've been thinking, how come no other cuisines have like their own specialized utensil? So I want you to invent a new utensil.
Oh, I love this. I'm excited.
Because my thinking is like, how do we have just like fork, spoon, knife, and then chopsticks, and there's nothing like in between?
In between. I get it.
So
I'm
that's
in
your
it.
Make a new utensil.
All right, cool. Well, I'm excited
Props
for
if you
next
actually
episode.
make it.
Oh, I'll fabricate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, if that's all that, then
I'm very excited
to go.
Yes.
All right. Until next time.
Love you.
Bye-bye. Hey guys, it's Jordan and Julia. Thanks for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it.
For content related to this episode, follow us at Make Me Pod on Instagram. And you can hear episodes each week on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you find us anywhere else, please let us know.
You can also send us your questions, comments, make me suggestions, pictures of your dog, or requests for unlicensed medical advice to makemepod@gmail.com.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, rate, etc., etc. That's how we get discovered.
Please, we need to be clicked.
But for real, leave a comment so we know you love us.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.